As we come into our second session, our speaker is going to be Brian Gandy. He is the Vice President of Research and Operations at Veloya, and he has the title of his talk up here. So, Brian. We can give him a round of applause.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. This is an honor. I asked to speak the first time I heard about this event, and it's been 3 now, so thank you for having me. And I was a brief student in the program, but I've been out selling lights instead. But I still think about this constantly, and it's a really fun topic. Plants and light, I can't stop thinking about it, so hopefully I put more information in last night. Hopefully this tracks. The first time I gave this speech was in Morocco. Second time was in UC Davis, which I was in completely over my skis there. But I know at least half or more of you in the room, so I appreciate you guys coming, most of you. And and my family's here too, so this is an honor. Thank you guys. So right now, if you don't know what PPFD is, we'll get into that. But as we design lighting systems for cultivation, we are using basically a combination of terminology that is an amalgamation of visual perception and agronomics. And PPFD, I'll get into the definition, and I'm going to point out a few other things that I've seen along the way. Basically, working in the private sector is really exciting because we see things that are, I would say, impossible. So then I get to go back and reverse engineer them and see how people did it. So my old trope is cannabis is a gateway drug to horticulture. We're going to add controlled environmental agriculture and now physics to that. And like I said, the impossible observations I've seen, people who are growers that you just can't say no to, and then they do things that I can't tell them no. So I've been working with cannabis for a long time, before it was legal and after. I was a hemp farmer for a couple years, and this was my first LED grow back in 2014. We were using ducted hoods and cobs growing. That was Durban poison. That was definitely bootleg days, I think. But we've come a long way, and actually I think this is a picture from y'all's facility down in Anna with the photo bleaching, which was the first time I've ever seen this at lower light levels, and I've been working on it ever since then, and I think I might have that one figured out, but that's not what this presentation's about. But this is just generally accepted in horticulture or in cannabis. We know what causes it, or we know what parameters cause it, but we don't know what actually causes it. Dr. Bruce Bugbee at Utah State is a thought leader and has been forever on horticultural lighting. And he's defined the parameters that if you have more than 70% red in your spectrum at certain intensities, you're gonna see this. But I was able to see it at much lower light levels and not under LED. So that will be what I'm talking about next year. And these are just a couple of my other earlier trials. I was working with autoflowers in different spectrum and morphology response. That was my favorite pot I ever grew, was a pre-98 Bubba Kush under LED that we had engineered. And that was 2016. I think that was the last time I actually grew for myself indoors. But now I get to work with real scientists. This was a chemovar expression trial with our partners out in Oregon. So it's just a real honor to get to work with such professionals and scientists out in the field to learn from them and then feed back that information and knowledge, or at least try to process it. So I'm going to put out a lot of ideas that I need help actually solving. So hopefully there's some budding scientists in the room. And one of the main things that makes cannabis extremely unique is the structure of the plant itself. So when we're growing mostly in controlled environmental agriculture, we're looking at lettuce, mums, ornamental plants, very much a two-dimensional plane of canopy. And cannabis, when we're growing it indoors or in a greenhouse, is a three-dimensional plant. I mean, we're trying to get flowers from top to bottom. We want marketable product from top to bottom. And that provides unique challenges because when we're supplementing with artificial lighting, we're looking at what traditionally we correlate in literature and science and studies on a two-dimensional plane, but we've actually got a three-dimensional subject now, which brings unique challenges and opportunities. So, PPFD on canopy and then daily light integral. These are the two terms I'm going to define because this is where we run into a crux on terminology. So on the right, we have our spectrum running 100 micromoles on clones, but with a unique spectrum, it's enough to grow very healthy plants at a good rate. And then here is just another top lit. You can see how high the fixtures are from the canopy. And this is a facility in West Virginia that we work with that does a very good job as well. But when we're designing and doing lighting layouts, anybody who's ever bought lights or been annoyed by a lighting salesman, we will send out these lighting designs that are done in either Dialux or AGI 32. And we use this software, which is a derivative of like landscape lighting or architectural lighting, visual perception lighting. So we do map out the best uniformity that we can. However, there's still some flaws. You can see that there's uniformity issues. There's drop-offs on the side. We can address this in a lot of ways. I've seen some new science coming out. A lot of people trying to address it with controls or fixtures. We've done unique layouts where we'll actually put more fixtures on the outside of the room, tuck the lights right up to the edge of the room. But this is what goes as the industry standard. And 1,000 micromoles on canopy used to be the industry standard. And then I have this grower up in Michigan who is definitely a bootlegger, but we basically couldn't tell him no. He's like, I'm gonna put 1,800 micromoles down on canopy. And we said, no, you're not. And then this is what happened. This is Kush Mints, and anybody who knows the industry probably knows who this grower is. It's his cut, and you can see, I mean, he's got 4 feet of full canopy of harvestable and sellable flower. And this is nearly double the amount of light level that we would prescribe historically. And he was getting over 130 grams per square foot indoors. And I said, well, now I have the next couple of years to figure this one out. So what is on canopy? I mean, all of the newer genetics, like the GMOs for all you growers out there, are long, stalky, and leggy. So we have plants that'll grow straight up to the light. And there's one scientist up in University of Guelph who actually did a better job of defining the term in her publication. And we've talked, and she agrees that there is a fundamental gap in the understanding of how we do lighting design. Because this canopy, again, this grower's got 3 feet deep of flower, of sellable flower. So the plant doesn't necessarily care. There's not a clear top off. I mean, this is a 3-dimensional space. So the definition of on canopy is in the mix and not quite defined yet. And then from the agronomic side, we have daily light integral, which is in a cornfield, PPFD from a light meter, but it's times the math, it's the integral of the total amount of light that you get in the season. You're going to determine when your corn is harvested by the total amount of light that it gets over time. These are the USDA maps, so if you're designing a greenhouse or you're looking at producing certain field crops, you would go to these to say, I'm going to be able to grow corn here. On average, I'm going to be able to pull my crop down in this many days because it's going to get this much total light energy over time. But this is an agronomic term that has been used. And while the math adds up with a light meter in a cornfield, there's a disparity between artificial lighting and the sunlight.